Hey everybody, this is Minion Soldier, and with this video, we're going to be looking at the Aurora LN again. I decided to kind of go get some wreck and flesh the ship out, kind of kit it up a little bit, and see what we could do with it, and kind of experiment with some different weapon configurations, and kind of see basically how the ship would function and what would be good, what might not be that great. So the first weapon system I wanted to try out was projectiles, and I'm using the Sledge 2s. Now the Sledge 2s fire a 60mm projectile. They have a low rate of fire, but they advertise as having a lower signature. And overall, and more or less like in sitting still with the ship or just in straight flight, I mean, the signature on the ship, the EM signature, did come down to just under 200. And that would appear to be an advantage. I mean, certainly in the persistent universe, you might not always want to be seen. This might be a good idea. And I mean, we'll kind of talk about some different ways that these might be good weapons. But overall, that low rate of fire does create some limitations with these weapons. Now, overall, they do have a fairly devastating hit. They are capable of one-shotting a lot of these NPC opponents. But it's that low rate of fire that really kind of put me off of them. Now, I could have swapped these out for, say, tarantulas or something like that. Something that had a higher rate of fire. And, that would probably close that gap, certainly. But overall, I mean, once again, you're dealing with a new problem, which is also the added expense of ammunition. Having to purchase ammunition for reloads. Can we make our own ammunition to save on cost? Possibly, but then we would have to farm the materials to make the ammunition either through the wreckage of ships or through mining, having to refine and then take it and manufacture it. I mean, there's a certain cost there in time as well, even if you're able to manufacture your own ammunition. And so with those kind of problems, I mean, it kind of starts to make things look a little bit bad for projectile weapons in the PU. Certainly there are devastating hits that you can get in here. And, truth be told, if these weapons were on gimbals and if I were using a mouse and keyboard, it would probably be a heck of a lot easier to pin my shots and actually get these guys, kind of just get these guys right down. And I could probably, with a little bit of practice, and if I was using mouse and keyboard, and I had all my weapons on gimbals, I could probably deal with these guys fairly quickly. But the fact of the matter is they just, with that low rate of fire and the added expense of ammunition, they never really seemed that strong. I mean, if you were going after, say, larger targets, larger ships, cargo haulers or something like that, and I mean, you could load this thing out with dumbfire missiles then, and you could have these sledges, and then you could probably get some big devastating alpha strikes on those ships. I mean, especially if you were good enough to, say, aim in on the turrets, these would actually be really good weapons. I mean, these would probably be fairly devastating even to larger targets, because I mean, projectiles are designed to pass right through shields and go after, say, a ship's systems. But then we also have another hurdle for them, which is the armor profiles of the ships, and armor hasn't been implemented in the game yet. So one of this weapon system's major hurdles, we haven't even seen it yet. So once again, they're good weapons, but there are unknowns, and then there are also added expenses, either through time or through your own personal in-game credits. That they seemed like they would just kind of weigh down your earning potential in the PU when you're constantly having to deal with the problem of ammunition. Another issue is running out of ammunition. What happens when you're running low on ammunition but you're caught in a combat situation? I mean, you're in a dogfight, you've got each other by the hip, there's not a lot of opportunities to kind of break away and get more ammunition. And if you're running, really low on ammunition. You have to be really careful with your shots, so you might not be able to take advantage of every opportunity that presents itself in a battle, because you're like, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to hit this shot, and you might hesitate on the trigger. Whereas if you had, say, an energy based weapon, you could just let fly, you could just let it rip. Now with energy based weapons, you also have heat to deal with, which you really don't seem to have to deal with as much with a weapon system like this. I mean, you do have heat to deal with, as you can see. I mean, every time I fire a volley, there is heat, but it seems a little bit more manageable, especially with a lower rate of fire weapon. I have no doubt that I could easily overheat these weapons, but I mean, even when you look at, say, the heat advantage over energy-based weapons, it just doesn't seem to be there. It just doesn't seem, it's been said before that, with energy weapons, you have to deal with heat, and you have to deal with shields, and energy weapons aren't as good against shields as they are against, armor. But we've already seen shields implemented in the game. We already know how energy weapons deal with shields, whereas we haven't seen armor, so we don't know how projectiles are going to deal with armor. So that's kind of a big unknown. And then once we look at heat, there really isn't that, an apparent advantage with heat. I mean, it's been said that, projectile weapons, you don't have to worry about overheating as much because you're being a little bit more careful with your shots. But the overall advantage just doesn't seem to be there. And I mean, here I am, I'm dealing with Little King, and I'm able to get one big hit on him in the beginning, pop off a wing. But, I'm just not able to get enough successive shots in that at this point he would already be dead. If I was using energy-based weapons, he would already be gone. And so his opportunities to get damage on me and his allies' opportunities to get damage on me would be much more limited if he was already shot down and I was already moving on to the next guy. And even though I'm eventually able to devastate him, there you go. There it is. Even though we're able to get him down, and then we're able to luckily get his next guy down real quick, it never really felt all that comfortable to deal with. Always kind of having to hold back on your shots and always having to be careful with your shots. It just doesn't feel like a comfortable weapon system, and you don't really know. I mean, when I was talking about attacking bigger ships, you don't always know who your opponents are going to be. Certainly in the PU, you're not going to always know, and you're going to want a more general use weapon and not just a niche application weapon. And that being said, and with all these things kind of factored in, I just don't see projectile weapons having any real inherent advantage that kind of makes them overall preferable in the general day-to-day life of a player in the PU over an energy-based weapon. There are too many unanswered questions, and one of the big ones is, where are you going to get your ammunition reloads from? Now, I guess, if you had a ship, say, like the Anvil Crucible, and you were able to make a variant of that would just carry ammunition reloads, and it had kind of a stealth profile to it, so you could hide it somewhere nearby, and instead of having like little repair arms, it would have like these little robotic arms that would just slot in more ammunition and missiles onto your ship. That would be a good idea, and that would certainly answer a few questions for projectiles. But when you get down to the energy-based weapons, it's a known quantity. You already know what you're dealing with, and you can build on that and grow on that as a player, whereas with projectile weapons, there are just too many unanswered questions. So here I am, I come back to the hangar, I swap on the Omniskys, and I decide to take them for a run. And let's see how energy weapons speak for themselves in the PU, and how well the Omniskys work on the Aurora LN. Now, as you can see, just here, we do have a bit of a higher signature in normal flight than we did have with the, with the Sledge 2s. But as soon as we get into this squadron here, as soon as we actually dig into it, you're going to immediately see a difference. Now, one of the things about the Omniskys is they do have a higher rate of fire, but even with that higher rate of fire, the damage advantage that they have, it's immediately apparent. You don't always, I mean, you can't really one-shot as frequently as you can with the sledges. But then again, you kind of can, because you're able to deal with these guys so much faster, and you're able to get your shots off so much faster that even if you miss on the first volley, the next volley quickly gets in there, and it's a lot easier to hit guys. You don't have to be as careful with your shots. You don't even have to think about having limited ammunition. It's a non-issue. Boom, first wave gone. It's those difficulties are just not even there. They're not. You don't even have to think about them. The only limited ammunition that you have to really think about is your missiles. And since I've always been kind of miserly with my missiles, I don't even really think about them either. I've always kind of taught myself to play the game as if I don't have any missiles, to learn to dogfight and to not just sit there and spam them. And I mean, when I was showing off the sledges before, I mean, I was showing off the sledges against just regular NPCs. I wasn't showing them off against players. With players, you're going to have a lot less opportunities to kind of shoot things down, because players are juking, diving, they're dodging all over the place, whereas NPCs can be a little bit more reliable in what they're going to do and how they're going to fly. And so it's kind of easier to kind of predict what they're going to do and take advantage of that. And with having a lot of successive shots coming out in sort of a close in a closed time frame, you're able to better take advantage of those opportunities. And as you can see, it's immediately apparent. It's night and day. The sledges do have that devastating alpha strike, and I mean, if you were using a mouse and keyboard, you'd probably be a lot, in those weapons, sorry, we're on gimbals as well, it would probably be a lot easier to take advantage of the sledge weapons, or the projectile weapons, especially the sledges. But I mean, just in general day-to-day use, it's immediately apparent that it's so much easier and so much more reliable to use energy-based weapons. And even if I had mouse and keyboard, and even if that was how I flew, it would still be easier to use energy-based weapons, because you would remove the factor of ammunition from the equation. You wouldn't have to worry about it. You wouldn't have to worry about, oh shit, can I afford to get into this dogfight with this guy, knowing that I might run out of ammunition. I might not have enough ammunition to kind of deal with this fight. And if I have to get him down and his buddy down, if I have to shoot them both down, I'm able to do it much more quickly and much more efficiently than if I were doing it with projectile weapons. I mean, here we are, we're 3 minutes and 45 seconds in, and we're already going into the third wave. I mean, we're dealing with these guys so much faster. And it's just so much easier to do it. And so just in the general day-to-day use in the PU, I just think energy-based weapons just have so many advantages over projectile weapons. And the fact that armor isn't even implemented in the game, I mean, that's a major unknown quantity for projectile weapons. And I mean, there you go, Little King, we just one-shotted him. We were able to get him down with basically, I mean, we fired a few volleys, but it was one volley that hit all at once and just destroyed him. And, you know, here's the next guy. And the next guy, just boom, boom, boom. I mean, we're just about to close in on the 5-minute mark here. We're using a joystick, which is not the easiest way to play AC, especially right now. And we're just kind of cutting through these guys. Oops, see ya. You know, we're closing in on the 5-minute mark. In the other section, this is where we were starting the third wave, and here they're already dead. They're done. And so overall, I mean, with the Aurora LN, the Omniskys just seem like they are just the way to go. I mean, the Aurora LN, its major drawback, of course, is its speed. But I think, you know, with this, once we kind of get a little bit more fleshed out in the game, and once we have more advanced engines to play with, I have a feeling we're going to be able to close the speed gap very easily with the Aurora LN. And as you can see with the Omniskys, it's a really nice ship. So if you're able to get out there and earn the wreck, the Aurora LN really is starting to look very strong, and I'm becoming a huge fan of this ship. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and enjoyed listening to me ramble on, and thanks for watching.